lovely to
I'm so happy to be here.
I know. I'm so happy to have you here. Kat, you know what? As a lot of people maybe in Europe and places don't know about you, okay, I've got an echo, guys, in my sound, thanks. Can you just tell us a little bit about you and your family background? Just, I know you had how many? 14 brothers and sisters?
I have 14 siblings, yes.
I know. And
That's
you were
correct.
the eldest?
I'm number 3.
Okay, you're number 3.
Yes, but I was in the top quarter, you know, the ones who really did all the extra work.
Yeah, I know.
And were parents by the time we were like 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah.
Because there were so many of us at one time. But,
yeah.
you know, God was just training me, preparing me for what I'm going to do now, to love everybody,
yes.
no matter what they're like.
Yeah.
Because when you live with that many personalities,
yeah.
you know, and a lot of them had leadership abilities that weren't sharpened yet,
yeah.
you know, it didn't always make it an easy day. But
sure.
the one thing that I remember the most when someone says my childhood or my growing up is my father.
I know your father.
My father had the love of the Father.
Yeah.
He knew him intimately.
Yeah.
And
he was like really one of the main foundations of
yes,
your whole
he
life,
absolutely
wasn't he?
was.
Yeah.
He certainly was. And everybody,
yeah.
we loved him.
Mine was too. That's
and he taught us about God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit was like his best friend.
Yes.
And so I did. My father really did.
Yeah.
He got us all in order, but did it in a loving way.
Yeah.
And our days were never normal, not with that many kids in the house. And
yes, you learned to live out of the box.
Totally out of the box.
And flexible.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we were all very
a lot
bold.
Of people, yeah, and so a lot of people who think God is so religious.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. God was prepping you.
We had, didn't have a lot of money back in that time, but every need was met because we gave so much. We gave of everything that we had. My father would even come take food off the stove and give it away to people down the street that didn't have any, and he would always provide more.
Yeah.
And it's like we lived by faith. We didn't just walk in faith. We lived by faith. Everything we got.
Yeah.
And he kept giving us more seed, whether it was food or clothes or whatever it was. We'd help people fix their houses up. And all of this in this wild time of growing up together.
Yeah.
You know, 60 loads of laundry, you know, 20
and there was
loaves
a
of
crocodile,
bread.
wasn't there?
We had an alligator
in your bar.
Yeah, nothing was normal in our household at all. You know, people were frequent. I'd tell people we didn't have visitors, we had victims. Because we all wanted to talk to them at the same time because we'd already heard from each of us, you know. We wanted somebody new that might be interested to hear, so we'd all share.
Yeah.
I guess we were all being just trained to be bold and to speak out. Yeah. But really, we did have an alligator named Charlie that lived in the bathtub. It was the only big thing we had he could stay in.
Yeah.
And my brothers were always dragging things home. We lived in Florida, so of course they were everywhere. Snakes, turtles, alligators. They were in our house. My mom would have to search for them every night to let them out.
Yeah, yeah.
But Charlie lived in the tub, and you'd have to go in. The first person in line for their bath would have to take him out and clean the tub. Yeah. Then everybody would hurry. You didn't lose your place in line. My brothers would try to buy it or bribe, you know, or even threaten sometimes to be put up. But we didn't. We didn't let our line. We know about waiting patiently. Yeah. We learned perseverance and long suffering because we had one bathroom. And, you know, so almost everything in my growing up years really did prepare me to know that not everybody's the same. Yeah. Everybody needs the same or wants the same or likes the same. And you have to learn to get along together and still love each other.
Okay. Now, people don't realize, I mean, they hear that you've been to heaven, okay, for many, many years. I mean, really to heaven. You've really seen the Father. You've really seen the... But a lot of people maybe don't understand the price and the way that you laid your life down to get there. Because I know that for years, probably what, 20 years, maybe 25 years, you would spend like with the Father every night.
Yes. 4 hours. Yes, pursuing. The first few years was absolute pursuing.
And just talking to him and
to know him. And I share with people, it's not that hard. You have to have a hunger, and if you don't have the hunger, ask for the hunger. You know, he'll make you hungry. And so I just began to shut myself in a room. You know, this was after I was married, because in the house it was really wild. I go in the corner of our yard, though. We had a huge yard, and I had a hammock. That was my only place. It was mine. There wasn't anybody else's. And
so
I crawl in the
your
hammock.
encounter room, because you had an encounter room.
had an encounter with a canvas, and I pulled the canvas hammock around me, and I would just talk to him.
Yes.
Of course, my conversations weren't the same.
Tell me something. How did you get to know the Father in the beginning, in the very beginning?
My father showed me who the Father was.
Mine too.
It was love. It was absolute love. And I would watch my father, how he treated people, how he responded to people, even those that made fun of him or didn't like him, you know. He loved them anyway. And I went, wow, that's just amazing that he could walk in that kind of love.
So did you feel like, although with the Holy Spirit and Jesus, you just felt more of an affinity to the Father?
Well, I can tell you that the Lord on purpose, Jesus on purpose, wanted me to have that relationship with the Father. He came, his whole reason for coming was so we would know him.
I know.
He's the only way back to him. He's the only door you can go through to get to him.
I know.
And I had
That's
seen...
all he talked about. I mean, everything was about his Father.
Yes, I had seen Jesus many times and was so in love with him already. And he said, I want you to know the Father. You must know the Father.
Because that's his
and he would talk to me. You know what he did? He would talk to me about him.
Yes.
And I would get hungry because here's his own son telling me about the Father. And I want, you would think he could talk about anything or desire anything. But it was to be with him. And so I began to just pursue him, and I would actually get in a room and shut the door and just sit by myself and say, I know that you're there. I know you love me. I know you made me, but I have to know you. I want you. I have to know you. And I began to pursue him, and then his presence flooded the room and captured my heart, and I went, oh, it is no wonder that Jesus had to go away to be away with him. Even when he's on the earth, went to the mountains to be away with him. You know, I don't know how people can live without him, without knowing him. He is love. I tell people, they go, what did he look like? He looked like love. Are you kidding? The love flowing from him, consuming every part of your being, and
but let me ask you something now.
Okay,
let me interrupt you then, ask you something. When was the first time that you got taken up into heaven?
You mean taken? Because I've seen it a few times when it was literally taken.
I mean literally taken. Oh, please, how did it happen?
That was in the summer of 1996.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and by that time, you'd had
many encounters with the Lord, the Holy Spirit, shown a lot of things. I actually was shown the millennial reign before I ever went to heaven.
How did that happen that was different?
It was
from
very
all
different.
The other times, tell me.
Because I was just doing housework, which is not my favorite. I'm not Susie Homemaker, I tell people. You know, I had enough of that when I was growing up, but I do take care of my house still, even today, when I have time. But I had just surrendered another part of my heart to the Lord. And I had been told by the Lord, actually 3 years prior, that the Father and He were going to prepare me for my next commission. And so they removed me out of my wonderful job. I worked for a law firm. I loved it. I'd been there 8 years, had a lot of favor, made a lot of really good money. And the Lord said, we're going to take you out of there so you can spend time with us. And the most important thing was the time with us. And so those next 3 years, it was 1993. Really, the end of 93, he said, the next 3 years are going to prepare you. So he's always been very good with dates with me. So for that 3 years, I totally threw myself into the arms of the Father, really got a more solid relationship with the Holy Spirit and the Lord, of course. I talked to them all the time. I could tell when they each talked to me. And all this time, I still made dumb mistakes. I still did things that probably could have been done better. I repented a lot, apologized a lot. You know, I'm always quick to do that. And yet, in that, I had an absolute presence around me all the time. By the time 1996 came along, and I'd even just chosen to volunteer for something I didn't have to. And so I was doing my dishes, and this time, instead of just being consumed in my encounter room or something, I was at the kitchen sink, and the Lord literally walked through the wall, physically walked through the wall of my home. Jesus did. Walked through the wall of my home. And he stood there and he said, of course, I'm ready to drop anything that I'm holding, because consumed in awe by him. It never becomes a normal or common thing ever. You're always consumed by the presence of him. And he said, the Father and I have decided to start taking you on tours of heaven. It was that plain. And I turned around and looked at him, he goes, go sit down. I'm going to take you now. So that was about the only time he's ever taken me.
And so how did that happen? How did he take
I went and sat at my table, and when I sat down, he said, we're going to teach you to have fun. And I said, I have fun when I'm with you. He goes, no, I mean fun like a child. Well, I have fun when I'm in the meetings and you're there, or you come see me. He goes, no, you have to know what it's like to have fun like a child. And he said, so we're going to take you someplace fun. And instantly, I was not in my kitchen. This is when I was wide awake. I was taken up to heaven. The first time, undone by the beauty, by the splendor, the colors, just everything.
Just tell us,
I was amazed.
As you stood, what kind of colors?
I stood
there. I know
there.
his favorite color, you said, is teal.
Yeah,
which
teal.
I love so much.
I think he has three, really. Teal is one, that's why it's unique, even on the earth. It's special, everybody notices it.
I know.
If they decide to do something different or special, they always incorporate that color. It's definitely a throne room color. I call it a throne room color.
Okay.
So there was streams of living color. It wasn't just colors, it was alive.
Okay, so did you go up? What happened? Did you?
I was instantly, I never feel myself traveling. Only a couple of times has that happened. No, instantly, like John, he said instantly I was there. He saw a door open and instantly he was there. Same thing. I was caught up by my spirit. I was not in my body. And I was caught up and I was put on this path, this beautiful, amazing path.
What did it look like?
It was gorgeous. There was living flowers singing to me. I'm like, you know, the Lord kept saying, you need to pay attention because I felt like I was 8 years old, number one. I felt like I was 8 and I just wanted to run and grab everything and touch everything. And if you walk through the flowers, they would say things to you or they would be singing. You would see people traveling on their worship across the sky of heaven. Let me tell you, you know you're not on earth. When they worship in heaven, you're caught up and ride on your praise across the skies to the throne room. So I saw streams of people going places. I saw families together doing things. And I'm like, people were dancing everywhere.
When was the first time you saw the Father in heaven? Please.
The next time I came, the very next time, because you know that was my heart.
Tell us the whole thing from the beginning.
My heart was to see him in a person and be with him in person.
I know.
And of course, he got rid of that thing long before that. There's many people. Probably the most thing I get caught about was you can't see the face of God.
Yeah.
And it went, well, you know, the Father said, my Son made a way to see me. For those who receive me, he said he's the only way back. You know, those who are pure in heart shall see the face of God. He said, but whom I choose to bring before my throne will see my face. And he was amazing. The throne is high and lifted up. It's almost like, and it depends on which throne room you're in. Because there's many throne rooms. There's the general throne room where you see all the masses and the living creatures are there and the elders' thrones and the seraphim dipping down out of this cloud of glory. Their whole head's on fire. It's like blue fire. Their hair's blue fire. And their song is amazing and they live there. That's the place where they live. The throne is high. It's like there's steps and a platform with columns and it goes on up. Almost like a building and a structure, which answers the question, how can the souls under the altar speak? Because there's rooms. There's the altar, but there's rooms under the throne itself, and they go in there and declare things and even pray there in these rooms, but it's actually under the altar. So that was a mystery I had answered right away. Well, it's almost a big structure. But the Father himself, the waves of glory, the rainbow is not just something that just sits around him. It moves in and out of him in waves.
Okay, so let me ask you, so when you went there, all right, were you there in front of the throne? And did you walk into him? What happened?
Yes, when I was the first time I was taken, I didn't even go over this bridge or through the door. I've been through the doors and down the hallway and everything. No, I was instantly just a few steps from him, actually. I mean, they put me real close to him, and I was completely undone. I thought I knew what love was, but my whole heart melted. Everything in my past, everything about me disappeared because I was with him. And he reached these big hands out and just grabbed me and held me to himself. And I'm like, I felt like I was in him, living in him. I could feel the sound of his heart. I could feel, this sounds strange, I could feel the waves of the living rainbow that's inside me. I could feel them going through me as he held me. And every band of color had a sound and a frequency and it had different emotions. Every band has emotions, and I would feel like love and then peace and then joy and then revelation like I never experienced begin to pour through me. And I look down at the steps, and looking at the steps, you see creation taking place somewhere in heaven. Creativity literally lives in him and flows out of him. But the love, and when he held me, I knew he was where I came from. I can't say any other way. It was like I was where I belonged. You know, I know heaven is really our home. We're citizens of heaven. It says it in Philippians that our citizenship is in heaven. But literally, our home was Him first. We came from Him. There was no other place we could have lived. We didn't have these bodies then. We're little beings of light and joy, like little children. We played inside of Him. And instantly, there was a connection of when I used to be there. I don't think I've even shared this with anybody. I began to see pictures of myself inside Him playing on the stones of fire and playing in the river of life. But then I remember seeing one where I sat in His hand, and even then we chose whether to stay inside or to sit in His hand.
Yes.
And He would tell me stories and things, and I would laugh and laugh and laugh. And so I knew that I had given my heart to Him a long time ago. But that being reconnected to Him changed my entire life from that moment. I was never the same. I couldn't look at people the same.
What did He say to you?
He said, my daughter. He called me His daughter. He said, my daughter, I'm so glad I've brought you to see me. So He clearly let me know it was His choice, although my heart was aching to see Him. That I'm so glad I've brought you to see me. And He said, you've blessed my heart. You've blessed many in this world. You know, you will carry messages from me around the world. And He said, you'll not have any fear from this moment on in your life. All fear left me. I've never been afraid of anything from that moment.
Oh, I know
all
you.
all fear will leave you. And He said, you'll say my words no matter what people say, no matter what they look like. And He said, you'll love well and you'll be loved well.
Yes.
And so even though there'd be people that didn't like me or didn't like my words, He said they wouldn't be able to resist His love in me. I probably think, and I tell people, the most significant time I was in heaven was that time. The very first time I saw the Father and had that encounter with Him. And then He...
Okay, so what did you see His face then? I know
I
what
did.
you said about His
After
skin.
He held me for a while, then He put me back outside and let me have a really good look at Him. And He's big. He's big. I know He can be any size He wants to, but He was big. He was filled with light. He's made a being of light. He's a spirit. He has a spiritual body. People think He doesn't have a body. He has a body. It's big and it's strong. And his hands were glorious. But I couldn't stop looking at His face. And I stood here, then I stood to the side of Him and looked also at the side. I want to get a really good look. His hair is white as wool. It was alive. I touched it. When I touched it, it was like life shot in me. Even just standing by Him, life began to shoot into me. Again, revelation shot into me. And I looked through the glory, and I could see the outline of His face. And
is there anyone in the whole world, like a statesman or anyone, who just, you can think has a glimpse of Him?
I could say He looked a lot like Jesus. He looked quite similar, but I would not say an exact stamp. I know He is the express image in His love. Jesus is the express image in His love and His care, and also the way He operates. But I just, it would be really hard to pick somebody.
We're going to go to a worship song now, Kat, and then we'll get our viewers'
He did have
questions.
eyes, blue flames of fire.
Okay, but what were the attributes, the major, like the attributes that you felt with Him?
His eyes are the greatest thing I can remember.
Okay.
They were like blue flames. Literally, I saw blue flames of fire as His eyes.
Did you feel He had humor?
He had so much humor in Him, and I know he thought it was quite humorous that I was overwhelmed by Him. But especially the rainbow has always been one of my favorite things in the sky. And I kept wanting to study the rainbow, and he thought that was quite funny, quite humorous that I would want to see the rainbow and touch the rainbow. To him, it's just His love. Really, it's His love that leaves him. But he is quite humorous, especially later when they asked me to have pink hair. It was His plan. It was the Father's choice, and I was not. It was the Father's choice. Yeah, because when the Lord said you must have pink highlights, and I looked at Him like, what on the inside? He said, the Father. It's necessary.
Which was just to show He loved all people.
To show that He loved all people, no matter what you look like, what you have on your body, what you don't have. It wasn't about any of that. He said, I'm going to let them know I love them. And if they know you have this relationship and you have pink hair, then that doesn't really matter what color your hair is. And it certainly draws the world's attention.
It's fantastic.
And so this was His choice. And besides the fact that it's heaven culture, people in heaven have all different colors of hair. This is heaven culture. It's what's coming to the body of Christ.
Yeah, I will. Okay. Well, we'll come back to you just now. And we're going to just go to Pablo to just sing a worship song. And then we're going to ask Kat some of your many, many questions.